Hi, everyone. This week is the second week in Lent. Lent is a time of turning back to God. Lent is 6 weeks and is a purple season. Purple stands for drawing close to God by opening our hearts in prayer. Jesus took Peter, John, and James with him and went up to a mountain to pray. While he was praying, his face changed, and his clothes became shining white. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah were there speaking with him. They appeared in heavenly glory and talked all about that Jesus' death in Jerusalem would mean. Peter and the other 2 disciples had been sound asleep. At once they woke up and saw how glorious Jesus was. They also saw the 2 men who were with them. Moses and Elijah were about to leave when Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But Peter did not know what he was talking about. While Peter was still speaking, a shadow from a cloud passed over them, and they were frightened as the cloud covered them. From the cloud a voice spoke, "This is my chosen son. Listen to what he says." After the voice had spoken, Peter, John, and James saw only Jesus. For some time they kept quiet and did not say anything about what they had seen. The Gospel of the Lord. This week's Gospel tells the story of Jesus' transfiguration. What does that mean? Transfiguration means change. Jesus' disciples saw something change in Jesus. And maybe something changed in their understanding of Jesus too. Jesus took Peter, John, and James up on a mountain to pray. As we remember, Jesus and even others like Moses sometimes went up to a mountain to be with God. Maybe because they could get away from everything else that might distract them. When Jesus was praying, he and his clothes became shining white, and Moses and Elijah were speaking with him. Moses was the person who led God's people out of slavery through the desert to the land given to them by God. He brought the 10 commandments from God to his people, teaching them how to live following God. And Elijah was a prophet who told everyone to turn back to God. He is also known for realizing that sometimes God comes in small and quiet ways, and not just in big, loud ways. Jesus talking to Moses and Elijah was quite something. Here he was with 2 very important people in the history of God's people, so he was important too. Only we will find out that he was even more important. Jesus' disciples almost missed it. They were asleep. I guess they fell asleep when Jesus was praying, as they often did. Have you ever fallen asleep while praying? Peter saw Moses and Elijah and suggested making shelters for them to stay, but it turns out they couldn't stay. When we try to control things from God, they disappear. And so it was with Moses and Elijah. They were just there for a moment. Have you ever had a special moment when you realize God is there? Were you able to control it and make it last? Then a cloud came over them, and God spoke that Jesus was his son, and that they should all listen to him. Can you imagine that? I guess it would be pretty hard not to listen to Jesus after that. They were so shocked that they said nothing for a while. Who would you be in this story? Would you be one of the disciples who fell asleep? Would you be Peter, who tried to capture the moment? Would you be Moses or Elijah, who had lived their lives following God and now recognized that Jesus was even greater? Would you be Jesus' disciples, hearing the voice of God, telling them to listen to Jesus?